thank you, Jan. It's a good question, and thank you to Pippa and Jonas for your inputs. It puts also like me thinking of Finland in new ways, because we have this huge legacy of forest policy and forestry and forest management. We have a lot of trees, but the trees are not very big because we manage our forests so efficiently. So in some way we have a very strong institutional foundation. But if I first answer Janis's question, and then maybe if I have time, tell a little bit more about the Finnish forest strategy. So I would say that all these issues, whether they are national forest policy issues or European level, they are very science driven. So the policy goals that we set in the strategies are extremely science driven. So if it is biodiversity, climate change, restoration as more active, or adaptation as more active viewpoints, or more technological aspects of forest management and the value chain, these all have a lot of science as a foundation for when these strategies have been prepared in the background. And then this preparation comes to a bit more political stage where there is a lot of compromise, and this becomes public, and there's a lot of interests being negotiated. And at this point, it can start to look that was science used at all? Because a lot of these interest groups and politicians, active voices in the society, draw onto specific research results and say, this has not been respected, this has been ignored, and not kind of like paying attention or acknowledging how the whole strategy is quite all-encompassing. And so this happens in Finland, this happens at the EU level, and I think that what we see then is that this really needs to be strengthened, this science policy interface, so that it is also apparent for those who comment on policy how science has been used, because there is a lot of science that is being used. And also the presentation by Mireia, that is also science, that also uses methods that are scientifically reviewed and so on. So we should acknowledge that there is a lot of research happening here. I think that what we need, in some way, we need even more multidisciplinary work to avoid this picking somehow particular results about value added or carbon balance or biodiversity, but so that the multidisciplinarity becomes more apparent also in the public debate. So the Finnish forest strategy, I thought that I would just say briefly about the Finnish forest strategy, how that has been prepared and what kind of emphasis it has. So it has been prepared in collaboration with a lot of stakeholders, a lot of like participatory rounds, and then there is a lot of expert input into it as well. And it takes growth and welfare to the center stage, and perhaps even plays with words. So growth, you can think of forest growth or economic growth, but welfare is at the center stage. And then it has emphasis on value added, competitiveness, responsibility, and also active management with an approach that we would diversify our management regimes, which this has only just started in Finland. So we have had a fairly like clear rotation with thinnings and clear cuts, and this has resulted in fairly monotonous forest structure in some way. So there is added emphasis on continuous growth, on diversifying the species structure. We don't have very many native species, but we could use those species more. And these are increasing trends. We see them from the statistics, but then the forest strategy puts emphasis on this as well. And on vitality, health, and biodiversity of forests, and then very much on knowledge-based management and increasing competence. So both increasing skills in the forest sector, and then using our digital tools more.